All right, listeners, ready for this one? Today we're going deep on a research article, and well, it's about tiny robots navigating the human body.
Microrobots.
Yeah, microrobots, like right out of science fiction. But this is like the real deal, like really cutting-edge science. We're talking robots that are smaller than a human hair, and they're designed to like travel through your bloodstream and deliver targeted therapies. I don't know about you, but I am hooked already.
Yeah, absolutely. The research is titled Imaging-Guided Bioresorbable Acoustic Hydrogel Microrobots.
Okay.
And it details a new type of microrobot called a BAM,
A BAM.
which stands for Bioresorbable Acoustic Microrobot.
BAM. I love it. I love the name already. But break it down for me. What exactly are BAMs and how are they made?
So they're made using a 3D printing technique. It's called two-photon polymerization.
Okay.
It's incredibly precise. It basically uses a focused laser to build these tiny robots layer by layer out of a special material called a hydrogel.
Hydrogel. So like a squishy robot. That's kind of wild. And how small are we talking exactly?
Think microscopic. These BAMs are just 30 micrometers in diameter,
Wow.
which is smaller than the width of a human hair.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, a single red blood cell is about 8 micrometers in diameter.
Wow. Okay. So we're talking seriously tiny. But what's going on inside these microscopic machines? What makes them tick?
So each BAM has magnetic nanoparticles inside, and these are key for steering it. But the truly innovative part is the design.
Okay.
It has a dual opening cavity that traps tiny microbubbles.
Microbubbles. What do those do? Help them like float around?
It's even cooler than that. Those microbubbles are actually the engine.
What?
Yeah, so when they're exposed to focused ultrasound, the bubbles oscillate rapidly.
Okay.
And this creates tiny swirling vortices in the fluid around them.
Okay.
These vortices are called microstreaming, and they propel the BAMs forward.
Hold on. So the bubbles are like literally shaking the robot into motion. That's ingenious. It's like a tiny little submarine powered by bubbles. But why the dual opening design? What's so special about that?
That's one of the key innovations here. The dual openings, ideally positioned at a 90-degree angle, create much more efficient microstreaming. This makes the BAM both faster and more stable than previous designs that used only a single opening.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal.
Yeah.
But wait, if one opening is always facing the substrate, how do they avoid getting stuck?
Right, so that's where the secondary jerkness force comes in.
Okay.
It's an attractive force between oscillating bubbles, and it acts like an invisible tether. So it helps keep the BAM oriented correctly so it can keep moving efficiently even when it's close to a surface.
So it's like a built-in guiding system. That's amazing. But navigating through the body is incredibly complex. How do they make sure that these tiny robots can actually function in places like the bloodstream or even inside organs?
Yeah, that's another challenge the researchers tackled. You see, these BAMs need to operate in all kinds of biofluids, blood, urine, gastrointestinal fluid, and they need to keep those all-important microbubbles for as long as possible.
Yep.
That's where their clever surface modification comes in.
Surface modification. Sounds complicated.
It's actually quite elegant. They coated the BAMs with a hydrophobic inner layer, which repels water. This helps trap and hold on to those gas bubbles.
Okay.
But a completely hydrophobic robot would just clump up and get stuck. So they added a second outer layer that's hydrophilic, meaning it attracts water.
So it's like a robot that's water-loving on the outside and bubble-hugging on the inside. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
What does that actually do, though?
Well, this dual-layer design prevents the BAMs from sticking to each other or to surrounding tissues. This allows them to move smoothly through different fluids and, most importantly, retain those crucial microbubbles for days.
Days. Seriously. I wouldn't have thought those bubbles would last very long in a complex fluid like blood. But, okay, let's say they've got this tiny robot swimming around inside the body. How do they even track it? These things are practically invisible, right?
This is where it gets really clever. Remember how I said those microbubbles are the engine?
Yeah.
Well, they're also the tracking device.
What?
Yeah, microbubbles are already commonly used as contrast agents in medical ultrasound imaging.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
So they can literally see the bubbles and therefore the robot moving around inside the body using ultrasound. That's incredible.
Exactly. The oscillating microbubbles create a strong contrast signal that allows the researchers to see the BAMs in real time, even deep within tissues. They use a dual probe approach.
Okay.
One ultrasound probe for imaging and another for propulsion.
So they've got one probe pushing the robot and another one watching it go. Oh, okay. I'm officially impressed. But are they just letting these tiny robots drift around aimlessly? How do they control where they go?
Remember those magnetic nanoparticles we talked about? They're the key to steering.
Okay.
The researchers use an external magnetic field to precisely control the direction of the BAMs, guiding them towards their target.
Hold on a second. Are you telling me they can steer these microscopic robots with magnets? That's next level. So they can move them, they can track them, they can even steer them. But what happens to them after they've done their job? Do they just hang out in your body forever?
That's where the bioresorbable part of the name comes in.
Okay.
BAMs are made from a special type of hydrogel called PEGDA,
Okay.
and it's designed to break down naturally in the body over time.
Wait, they dissolve? No need for surgery to take them out later? That's a huge relief. But how long does that take? And is there any risk of the material like harming the body as it breaks down?
The research showed that the BAMs completely break down in an alkaline solution within 3 days.
Okay.
And they completely degraded under the skin of mice within 6 weeks with no signs of inflammation or toxicity.
Wow.
They also tested both the hydrogel and the magnetic nanoparticles on different types of cells to make sure there were no adverse effects.
Did those cells freak out?
Not at all. The cells were totally fine. The BAMs didn't affect their viability or function.
So it looks like we've got tiny, self-destructing, biocompatible robots. That's already pretty mind-blowing.
It is. This is like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's happening right now in labs around the world. But let's talk about the real game changer. Their potential for treating diseases.
Okay.
How are scientists envisioning using these BAMs to actually fight things like cancer?
Yeah.
One of the most promising applications is targeted drug delivery,
Okay.
particularly for cancer treatment. The researchers demonstrated this by loading the BAMs with an anti-cancer drug called 5-FU,
Okay.
which is commonly used in chemotherapy.
So they basically pack these tiny robots full of medicine and send them on a mission to destroy cancer cells.
Exactly. They tested this in a 3D tumor spheroid model,
Okay.
which is a more realistic way to study tumor behavior compared to traditional 2D cell cultures.
Back up for a second. What's a 3D tumor spheroid and why is it so important?
Imagine traditional cell cultures as flat cities. A tumor spheroid, on the other hand, is more like a bustling metropolis with complex structures and varying levels of access. This makes it a much more accurate representation of a real tumor.
So it's like navigating a dense urban environment instead of just cruising down an empty highway. Makes sense. How did the BAMs perform in this tumor city?
They were incredibly effective. The BAMs loaded with 5-FU and propelled by ultrasound were much better at killing cancer cells than just using free 5-FU or BAMs that weren't actively propelled.
Wow. So it's not just about delivering the drug, it's about delivering it effectively. The propulsion really makes a difference.
Absolutely. The active propulsion from the microbubbles helps the BAMs penetrate deeper into the spheroid,
Okay.
delivering the drug more uniformly throughout the tumor mass,
Okay.
leading to much better results.
Okay, so in the lab, these drug-loaded BAMs are looking really promising. But what about in a living being? Have they tried this in animals yet?
They have, and the results are incredibly exciting. They used a mouse model of bladder cancer. They injected the BAMs directly into the bladder and then used ultrasound and magnetic fields to guide them towards the tumor.
It's like they performed a microscopic robot-assisted surgery inside a living mouse. That's amazing. What happened?
The mice treated with the BAMs showed a remarkable 93% reduction in tumor size compared to the control groups.
93%. That's mind-blowing. But I have to ask about side effects. Did the mice experience any adverse reactions to the treatment?
The researchers found no significant side effects. The mice remained healthy, and there were no signs of damage to their major organs.
That's incredible. We're talking about tiny robots delivering targeted cancer therapy with minimal side effects. It sounds like the future of medicine. But I'm curious, what other applications are scientists exploring for these BAMs?
The possibilities are vast. Think biopsies, microsurgery, detoxification, even biosensing.
It's like having a microscopic toolbox inside your body.
Exactly. And as the technology develops, we're likely to see even more incredible applications emerge.
This has been an absolutely mind-blowing dive into the world of microrobotics. I'm already thinking about all the ways these tiny robots could change the future of medicine.
Yeah, we've seen how BAMs combine innovative design and materials with precise control to achieve some really incredible things. It's a testament to the incredible advancements happening in this field.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into the potential of these amazing microrobots and exploring what the future might hold for this groundbreaking technology. Okay, so we've covered like the basics of BAMs, how they're made, how they move, and how scientists can track them. But I think what really blows my mind is like the potential applications. We touched on targeted drug delivery for cancer. But can you give us some more concrete examples of what these tiny robots could actually do?
Absolutely. One area that has researchers really excited is using BAMs for minimally invasive biopsies. Imagine sending these tiny robots into hard-to-reach areas like deep within the brain or a delicate organ to collect tissue samples.
So instead of like a major surgery, you could
Yeah.
get a biopsy with just a tiny incision. That would be huge. Less risk, faster recovery time. I mean, the implications are incredible.
Exactly. And think about microsurgery. BAMs could potentially be used to repair damaged blood vessels or nerves, or even to clear blockages in tiny capillaries. This level of precision could revolutionize delicate surgeries, making them safer and more effective.
It's like having a microscopic surgeon working inside your body. It's almost too futuristic to comprehend. What about other applications beyond surgery?
Another area with huge potential is detoxification. Imagine using BAMs to target and remove harmful substances from the body, things like heavy metals, excess cholesterol, or even toxins produced by bacteria.
So they could act like tiny little cleaning crews scouring your body for harmful stuff.
Hmm.
I'm starting to see why you said the possibilities are vast.
And then there's biosensing. You could equip BAMs with sensors to monitor specific conditions inside the body, providing real-time information about things like blood sugar levels, hormone concentrations, or even the presence of specific biomarkers for disease.
Hold on, so they could act like tiny internal diagnostic labs constantly monitoring your health.
That's incredible. It's like having a personalized health checkup happening inside you 24/7.
It's certainly a fascinating possibility, and that's just scratching the surface. As the technology advances, I'm sure we'll see even more creative and innovative applications emerge.
Okay. I'm officially convinced that these BAMs have the potential to completely change the game in medicine.
Right.
But with all this amazing potential, what are the biggest challenges that researchers still need to overcome?
One of the main hurdles is scalability. Right now, we're talking about producing these microrobots in small quantities for research purposes. To make them widely available for clinical use, we need to figure out how to manufacture them on a much larger scale in a way that's both efficient and cost-effective.
Right. So we need to go from making a handful of robots in a lab to mass production. That's a big jump. What else is holding them back? Another challenge is enhancing their autonomy. Right now, BAMs rely on external guidance from ultrasound and magnetic fields to move and navigate. Developing more intelligent microrobots that can operate more independently within the body would be a major breakthrough.
So we're talking about tiny robots that can not only move but think for themselves? That sounds both fascinating and a little bit terrifying, to be honest.
I understand the concern, but imagine the possibilities. If we could develop microrobots that could autonomously navigate to specific targets, identify and respond to changes in the body's environment, it would open up a whole new level of precision and effectiveness in medicine.
It's like having a team of microscopic doctors working tirelessly inside you. It's a pretty wild thought.
It certainly is. And while there are still challenges to overcome, the progress being made in medical microrobotics is incredibly exciting. I believe we're on the cusp of a true revolution in healthcare.
I completely agree. This technology has the potential to transform how we diagnose, treat, and even prevent diseases. It's a future I'm definitely looking forward to.
Me too. And who knows what other incredible applications will emerge as the research continues.
This has been an absolutely mind-blowing journey into the world of microrobotics. It's amazing to think that these tiny robots, smaller than a human hair, could have such a massive impact on our lives.
It really highlights the power of human ingenuity and the incredible things we can achieve when we push the boundaries of science and technology.
Well said. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with something to ponder. We've talked about all the amazing things these BAMs can do, but what about the potential downsides? Are there any risks or ethical considerations we need to be thinking about as this technology advances?
That's an incredibly important point. As with any powerful new technology, we need to proceed thoughtfully and carefully.
Exactly. So as you're listening to all this, I encourage you to think critically about the potential impact of microrobots. What are the benefits and risks? How do we ensure responsible development and use? These are questions we all need to be asking as we move towards this exciting but uncertain future.
I couldn't agree more. Open discussion and careful consideration will be crucial as we navigate the ethical and societal implications of this revolutionary technology.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of microrobotics. So we've talked about all the amazing things these BAMs can do, from delivering drugs to performing microsurgery. It's really mind-blowing stuff. But as I'm listening to all this, I can't help but wonder, what's the big picture here? What does this research tell us about the future of medicine?
Well, it really points to a future of healthcare that's increasingly personalized and minimally invasive. We're moving away from like the one-size-fits-all approach and towards therapies that are tailored to each individual patient and their specific needs.
That makes sense. And these BAMs, they're a perfect example of that, right? They can be programmed to deliver drugs directly to a specific location, minimizing side effects and maximizing effectiveness.
Precisely. And as the technology advances, we can imagine even more sophisticated applications. Imagine using BAMs to monitor your health in real time, detecting and responding to problems before they even become symptoms,
Okay.
or using them to repair damage at a cellular level, essentially reversing the aging process.
Hold on, reversing the aging process. Now you're just messing with me.
Maybe, maybe not. The point is, the potential of this technology is truly vast. We're just scratching the surface of what might be possible.
Okay, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits, but what about the potential risks? Are there any downsides or concerns we should be aware of?
Of course, with any new technology, there are always potential risks. One concern is the possibility of unintended consequences. For example, what happens if a BAM malfunctions or goes off course? Could it cause damage to healthy tissue? These are questions researchers are actively working to address.
That's reassuring. So it sounds like there's a lot of work still to be done, but the future of medical microrobotics is incredibly bright.
I couldn't agree more. And as the field continues to advance, it's crucial that we have open and honest discussions about the potential benefits and risks of this technology. We need to ensure that its development and deployment is done responsibly and ethically with the best interests of patients always in mind.
Absolutely. It's not just about the science, it's about the human impact. We need to make sure we're using this technology to make the world a better place, not just a more technologically advanced one.
Well said. And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've covered a lot of ground today, but ultimately the future of medical microrobotics is in your hands. As you learn more about this technology and its potential, ask yourself, what kind of future do you want to see? How do you want to see this technology used to improve human health and well-being? The answers to these questions will shape the course of this exciting and rapidly evolving field.
I love that. It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers of scientific progress, we're active participants in shaping the future. And with technologies like BAMs on the horizon, the future of healthcare is looking brighter than ever. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of microrobotics.